Is that recording? Yep.
Sweet. Hi everyone, my name's Shane. I own and operate SunMed, a acupuncture and herbal medicine clinic in Noosa Junction. So today I'm going to do a bit of a talk about mental health from a Chinese medicine perspective. And the reason I'm doing that is because we're going through a mental health crisis at the moment. So I was at actually Luke's wellness thing last week for LinkedIn Local, and there was a guy there talking about how the percentages of people that will experience a mental health thing in their life. And the crazy thing was, in the last year, it's doubled. So it started off that originally 1% of people would have like a serious mental health issue in their life. So that'd be like schizophrenia, bipolar, psychosis, major depression, all those sorts of things. So 1% of the population. Then there'd be people that, I think it was 14% of the population would experience like just a bit of a depressive state, a bit of anxiety, something like that. 70% of the population would be able to just cruise, not have a few issues here and there, and just get on with their life. And only 15% of people actually had the ability to deal with their stuff as it came up. They had the right tools in place to be able to do that. So what I'm trying to do today is to share a different perspective on that so that more people can have more tools to deal with things. Over COVID, those stats literally doubled. So 2% of people now have serious mental health issues like schizophrenia, psychosis. 28% of people have experienced serious anxiety disorders, some depression, all that sort of stuff. And then only 50% of people now have the ability to actually cope and deal with their issues. And then it's still, what's crazy is that 15% of people didn't change. So the people that have the tools to be able to look after themselves still have the tools to be able to look after themselves. So it's only 15% of the population. So that did not change throughout COVID. So I want to talk a bit about my story and then how Chinese medicine can help with that. So the first thing is, yeah, there you go, that's me. So I had a history of myself. So I was in the bottom 1%. So I had psychosis. I had a major psychosis episode from taking drugs, and I ended up in a mental institute. And what happened was I got offered medication and the ability to get medicated and to go through that process. But I said no, because I didn't want to replace drugs with drugs. And so what I did was I started on my own journey of trying to find my way out of that. So I studied personal training, which you saw on there, which was one of my first qualifications, fell in love with the human body, and then went on to study massage, but there was still always something missing. When I was doing body work and stuff on people, there was always like crazy things would happen. Like I'd feel, I don't know, like my hand would disappear in their body. I was like, oh, I'm just a weirdo because I'm crazy in the head. But then I found Chinese medicine. And so Chinese medicine is all about the energetics of the body and how the energetics in the body work and the relationship within the body. And so I went on to study Chinese medicine, but I was always going through this battle of good and evil in my own head. And it just sent me crazy. And that went on for 6 years. And so I made this promise to myself, if I can get out of hell, I'm going to go back and I'm going to teach other people how to get out of hell. So that's what I'm doing now. So let's have a look at mental health. So what is mental health? Psychology, it equals, in the breakdown of the word, means the study of the mind or the study of the soul in the old words. So it's how we think, our intellect, how we feel, our emotions, our subconscious patterns, and how we behave. So how does Chinese medicine look at it? So it's a body-mind relationship. So you can't separate the relationship between the body and the mind and everything in between. And that's what yin and yang is, yeah? The yin's the body, yang's the mind. So when we look at mental health, what can it be affected by? So mental health can be affected by our education, our belief systems, our values, our thoughts, trauma, our DNA, or our DNA, which is drug and alcohol. So just a couple of quotes there. From Chinese medicine, energy flows where intention goes. Basically what that means is where you put your energy, you'll get more intention. So what we look at in Chinese medicine is our emotions and the movement of energy within the body. So the first thing that we look at is we're going to look at like what happens when a person gets angry. So when a person gets angry, their energy goes up. And if you look at someone that's angry, their face is red, they're up on their feet, they're ready to go like this. That's the energy rising in the body. If you look at someone that's afraid, what happens is they collapse, they can't run, they can't use their legs, yeah? The body just completely gives way, so the energy's going down. When someone's grieving, they're over like this. They're sitting, they're hunched in, so the energy's going in. And when someone's joyful, they're out like this, yeah? So the energy, so the expression of the energy in the body. And this is what Chinese medicine bases it off. And then what we look at is the awareness of having those things. So if you can be aware of what's going on inside your own body, you're able to take control of your emotional regulation. So what I'm going to show here is a simple breakdown of how we actually create a mental health issue, or a physical issue for that matter. So from a very young age, we start to learn things, yeah? And when you learn something, you expand your mind, so your mind changes, and it changes the way we think. And that comes at an expense to the body. So if you watch, I've got a young child now, watching her develop and watching her grow and change, yeah? And as she learns new skills, she gets exhausted. So she sleeps more, she eats more. And we need to do the same. And this doesn't change throughout our lives. The more we learn, the more we need to look after our bodies. Because, you know, from a simple scientific view, it's taking our glucose, it's taking our nutrients, to use the mind, yeah, to do that. So we need to look after the body as well. And what happens over a period of time, if we're not looking after our body at the same time that our mind is expanding, we're learning new things, we create this separation between the body and the mind. And over time, this creates more and more of a separation. Until we get to this point where we're at now, where people's bodies and minds are completely isolated. And we're looking at them as completely separate entities, yeah? So there's no communication between the two of them. So the body's depleted, it's empty, it's fatigued, it's weak. And the mind is in excess, it's overthinking, it's, you can experience depression, there's too much time upstairs, yeah? And so these are the things that we look at. So there's separation between the body and mind. So there's no communication, no connection, and no relationship. And what was Tim talking about before? He said the most important things that we can have is our relationships. Yeah, and so relationship just within the body is super important. How the organs talk to each other, how the brain communicates with our organs, how our cells talk to each other. And then in our mind, we've got our intellect talking to our emotions talking to our intellect. Yeah, we've got all of these things communicating. Then we've got the way the mind talks to the body. And you hear those stories of people that are able to heal themselves just with their mind. And it's the complete same way. If you think negatively, the body's going to feel it as well. And so when there's a complete separation between the body and mind, that's when you've got these serious mental health issues like psychosis and schizophrenia. And so what we look at Chinese medicine is we rebuild the relationship in the body. When you rebuild the physical relationship in the body and how the organs talk to each other and how the brain communicates with your organs, you're able to create harmony between the body and the mind. The body will heal itself, the mind will heal itself. And that's where we create body-mind harmony. And over time, what happens is when you've got that body-mind harmony, you don't have these massive peaks and crashes anymore. You have a more balanced rising of how you feel and through your body and how you're able to move forward through life. So how do we do it? Acupuncture is the first tool that we use at SunMed. So acupuncture creates flow and delivery of nutrients throughout the body. It improves your immune system. It can work on your muscular stuff. It can work on your gut health. It can work on your nervous system, down-regulating your nervous system. It can release painkillers in the body, so endogenous opiates. This is what I love working with, is like when I work with people withdrawing off heroin and other opiates and whatnot, is acupuncture actually stimulates the opiate receptors in the body so the person's able to feel the same hit as what they're getting from drugs. Cannabinoid receptors, so for all of you weed smokers out here, it works on the same receptors in the body. Herbal medicine's super interesting. So we look at herbal medicine in building and clearing and balancing temperature and moisture. So is the body too hot? Is the body too cold? Is the body too wet? Is it too dry? So if it's too hot, it's inflamed. yeah, and you've got lots of inflammation. That causes dryness. If you've got heat, it causes dryness, yeah? It's just the same as the environment. If the body's too cold, there's no metabolism. What happens when you've got no metabolism? Body puts on weight, yeah, so you get too wet. And so we look at bringing this back into as close to the center as we can, so there's a good balance between temperature and moisture in the body. And that starts to work with things like fighting off viral infections, harmonizing bacterial imbalances, all that sort of stuff in the body as well. So there's so many different ways that we can approach that. But that's not all we do. So acupuncture and herbs is the start. We also look at doing exercise prescriptions from a Chinese medicine perspective. So these are things like Qigong, meditation is part of that. Neidan, Dao Yin, they're all very basic, simple yoga exercises that people can do to help restore the communication within the body. Then we also look at lifestyle, regulating a person's lifestyle. There's big things now about like blue light at nighttime and all that sort of stuff. That's been in Chinese medicine forever. It's like you basically you wake up with the sun, you go to bed with the sun, and that changes throughout the seasons. And that's what we look at too. And then looking at creativity and purpose. So creativity, that can be something as simple as playing a musical instrument at nighttime, writing a journal, all that sort of stuff, just to sort of keep that. And then finally, purpose. Because one of the biggest things that we look at is that people have purpose, and that gives them something to live for. And so when people can find purpose, they're able to actually get up and make life worth living. So at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to increase the communication between the body and the mind. Better relationship between the brain, organs, glands, and tissues means a better relationship between the intellect and the emotional self. And so that will reflect in our internal and external worlds. So if there's good communication happening on our internal worlds, there's going to be excellent communication on our external worlds. And so Chinese medicine is not about separation in anything, yeah? It's our internal and our external. Our external will affect our internal. So if you're in an external world where you're surrounded by toxic people in a toxic job, or you hate the job that you go to, or you're not loving what you're doing, it's going to affect affect is a good word. It's going to affect your internal world as well. So the body heals itself, the mind heals itself. So what it does, it teaches you it's emotional regulation, body-mind regulation, and a return to our true nature, which is our virtues. Everyone knows that they want to be a good person, compassionate when something's going wrong, all that sort of stuff. We call them in our innate nature in Chinese medicine, our core beliefs and our values. So when it comes to treatment for different people, you can't just, we don't treat depression, we don't treat anxiety, we treat the pattern that the person's presenting with. Yeah, so there's multiple types of depressions, there's multiple types of anxieties, there's not one pill that fixes them all, yeah? And so different disease, same treatment, same disease, different treatment. That's the saying in Chinese medicine. So the definition of mental health that I've come up with is the alignment of what you think and feel with your core values and your beliefs put into behaviors and action in your current environmental reality. And so basically what that is the alignment between our emotions and our intellect and our body and our soul and within the environment that we live in. And if the soul triggers some people, it's like it's just a matter of looking at, what are your values, what are your virtues, what it is to be a good person, yeah? So here's a quote from an old shaman from South America. We either make ourselves miserable or we make ourselves happy. The amount of work is the same. I get a lot of people that don't want to do the work. And as I was talking about at the start, only 15% of people actually want to do the work. So it's hard work to be healthy. It's hard work to have good mental health. It's also hard to be depressed. It's hard to be anxious. So it's we've got to choose what our heart is. So making the change, boom. So I offer consultations. So I do an initial consultation, which is 60 minutes. My follow-up sessions for acupuncture are 30 minutes. Lifestyle and food consultations can also be included in that. We also do classes of meditation and Qigong. And what's coming very, very soon, we're hoping to launch this in the next month, is our WOW mentorship, which stands for the Way of Wellness mentorship. So the Way of Wellness mentorship is going to be a 12-month program. It's going to start off with a 4-week intensive thing that's targeted towards mainly addiction and mental health, because that's the area that I love to work with, but it can be tailored to anyone from entrepreneurs to for workplace stuff to athletes that want to improve their athleticism and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So, if you love my Bitmoji game, please give me a 5-star review on Google or Facebook. I'd love to get more of that. And if you don't like what I've been talking about, let's keep it out of my little secrets. Thank you very much. It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So, thank you very much, guys. I appreciate your time. We're all done.
Thank you very much, Shane. We'll open it to